life.
When I sing to the river,
66, the blue black.
The river sings back to me.
Find the fighter.
I can hear the voices calling.
Take things into your own hands to take
From the time when time began. I can feel its cooling water, turning rocks to grains of sand.
Good evening. We're gonna try that again. Good evening. All right, welcome to Mixed Magic Theater. My name is Jonathan Pitts-Wiley. I'm the artistic director here at the company, and I'm very happy to have you all here for our second ever performance of Wayfound, Music and Mothers of the Movement, created by myself, Kim Pitts-Wiley, and Alexis Ingram. I'm really excited for everyone to see this show and this terrific company of women. So I'm gonna get out of your way right now. And so without further ado, Wayfound, Music and Mothers of the Movement.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home. A long way from home. Mothers, will you come to the old camp meeting? Mothers, will you come to the old camp meeting? Oh, my mothers, will you come to the old campground? Come to the old campground tonight. Come to the old campground tonight. Come to the old campground tonight. Mother Phyllis, will you come to the old campground? Mother Phyllis, will you come to the old campground? Mother Phyllis Wheatley.
Though thou didst hear the tempest from afar, and felt the horrors of the watery war, to me unknown, yet on this peaceful shore methinks I hear the storm tumultuous roar, and how stern Boreas with impetuous hand compelled the Nereids to usurp the land. Reluctant rose the daughters of the main, and slow, ascending, glided o'er the plain, till Aeolus in his rapid chariot drove in gloomy grandeur from the vault above. Furious he comes. His winged sons obey their frantic sire, and madden all the sea. The billows rave, the wind's fierce tyrant roars, and with his sundering terror shakes all the shores. Broken by the waves, the vessel's frame is rent and strows its plank to the watery element. But thee, Maria, a chimeran shield preserved from sinking, and thy form upheld. And sure some heavenly oracle designed at that great crisis to instruct thy mind of things eternal sequenced away. And to thine heart just feelings to convey of things above and the future of the doom, and what with the burst of dread the world to come. From tossing seas I welcome thee to land. Resign her, dear Nereid, 'twas thy God's command. Thy spouse, late buried, as thy fears conceived, again returns. Thy fears conceived. Thy daughter blooming with superior grace, again thou seest, again thine arms embrace. O come, the joyful, show thy spouse his heir, and with what blessings of maternal care.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming but to carry me home. Swing low, sweet, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing down chariots, won't you let me ride? Oh, swing down chariots, stop and let me ride. Oh, rock me, Lord, come and easy. I got home on the other side. Six white horses standing side by side. Oh, six white horses standing side by side. Oh, rock me, Lord, come and easy. I got home on the other side. Swing down chariots, won't you let me ride? Oh, swing down chariots, stop and let me ride. Oh, rock and roll, come and easy. I got home on the other side. I got home on the, 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 Mother Gwendolyn, will you come to the old campground? Ooh, Mother Gwendolyn, will you come to the old campground? Mother Gwendolyn Brooks.
Emmett's mother is a pretty-faced thing, the tint of pulled taffy. She sits in a red room, drinking black coffee. She kisses her killed boy, and she is sorry. Chaos in windy graves, through a red prairie.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside and study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study Ida, won't you come to the old campground? Mother Ida, won't you come to the old campground? Mother Ida B. Wells.
One by one, the southern states have legally disenfranchised the Afro-American. And since the repeal of the Civil Rights Bill, nearly every southern state has passed separate car laws with a penalty against their infringement. The race, regardless of advancement, is penned into filthy, stifling partitions, cut off from smoking cars. All this, while although the political cause has been removed, the butcheries of black men at Barnwell, South Carolina, Carrollton, Mississippi, Waycross, Georgia, and Memphis, Tennessee have gone on. Also, the flaying alive of a man in Kentucky, the burning of one in Arkansas, the hanging of a 15-year-old girl in Louisiana, a woman in Jackson, Tennessee, and one in Hollandale, Mississippi. Until the dark and bloody record of the South shows 728 Afro-Americans lynched during the past 8 years. Now 50 of these were for political causes. The rest for all manner of accusations. From that of rape of white women to the case of the boy, Will Lewis, who was hanged at Tullahoma, Tennessee last year for being drunk and sassy to white folks.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. The strong arm of the law must be brought to bear upon lynchers and severe punishment. But this cannot and will not happen unless a healthy public sentiment demands and sustains such action. The men and women in the South who disapprove of lynching and remain silent on the perpetration of such outrages, Ponticep's criminal participants, accomplices, accessories before and after the fact, equally guilty with the actual lawbreakers, who would not persist if they did not know that neither the law nor militia would be brought to bear against them. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it rests. That which touches me most is that I had a chance to work with people, pass
runs as great a risk of biting the dust every time his Afro-American victim does, he will have a greater respect for Afro-American life. The more the Afro-American yields, cringes, and begs, the more he has to do so, the more he is insulted, outraged, and lynched.
Struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to realize that teaching others to stand up and fight is the only way my struggle survives. We who believe in freedom cannot freedom rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it rests. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. At times I can be quite difficult. I'll bow to no man's word. We who believe in freedom cannot free rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it rests. Mother CJ, will you come to the old campground? Mother CJ, will you come to the old campground? Mother CJ Walker.
Surely, you are not going to shut the door in my face. I feel I'm in a line of work that is a credit to the womanhood of our race. I'm a woman who started in business 7 years ago with $1.50.
Come on.
And this year, up until the 19th of this month, I had taken in $18,000. That makes a total of $63,049 made in my hair business in Indianapolis. I have been trying to get before you business people to tell you what I've been doing. I'm a woman who came from the cotton fields of the South. I was promoted to the wash tub and then to the cook kitchen. Then I promoted myself into the business of manufacturing hair goods and preparation.
Yes.
I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm not ashamed of my humble beginnings. Don't think that because you have to go down to the wash tub that you're any less of a lady. In the first place, I found that it's important to be honest and straightforward in all of your business dealings. In the second place, the women and the girls of our race must not be afraid to grab hold of business endeavors and through patient industry, close economy, determined effort, and a close application to business wring success out of a number of business opportunities that lie at their door. I have made it possible for many colored women to abandon the wash tub for a more profitable and pleasant occupation.
Yes, thank you.
Now I know there are those in the so-called higher walks of life who have a high opinion of hairdressers, as they call us. They don't have a very high opinion of our calling. So I had to go down and dignify that work. So much so that some of the best women of our race are now engaged in this line of business, and many of them are now in my employ. Well, enough said about that. Still gotta get up in the morning. Well, enough said about that. Still gotta get up in the morning. Still gotta get up. Still gotta get up. Still gotta get up. Still gotta get up. Make me blue. Feeling so bad.
Claudette, will you come to the old campground? Mother Claudette, will you come to the old campground? Mother Claudette Colvin.
I tell, one of the questions asked, why did you get up when the bus driver asked you? And the policeman. I say, I could not move because history had me glued to the seat. And they say, how is that? I say because it felt like Sojourner Truth's hands were pushing me down on one shoulder. And Harriet Tubman's hands were pushing me down on the other shoulder. And I could not move. And I yelled out, it's my constitutional right. Because I wasn't breaking a law under the state's law, separate but equal. I was sitting in the area that was reserved for black passengers. At that time, we didn't even want to be called black because black had a negative connotation. We were called colors. So I was sitting in the colored section, but because of Jim Crow law, the bus driver had police force, and he could ask you to get up. And the problem was that the white woman that was standing near me, she wasn't even an elderly white woman. She was a young white woman. She had a whole seat to sit down by, opposite me, in the opposite row. But she refused to sit down. Because of Jim Crow laws, a white person couldn't sit opposite a colored person. And a white person had to sit in front of you. The purpose was to make white people feel superior and colored people feel inferior. Well, they asked me to get up, and I refused. And one of the policemen was a traffic policeman at Court Square. And he yelled to the bus motorman that he had no jurisdiction here. And he got off. So the bus driver moved the bus to Bibb and Commerce. And then 2 squad car policemen came on the bus. And I became more defiant. And when they asked me the same question, and the gal, why are you sitting there? I said, it's my constitutional right.
Yes.
I paid my fare.
Yes.
It's my constitutional right.
Yes.
And he said, constitutional right. And then one kicked at me. And then he knocked the books out of my hand, out of my lap. And then one grabbed one arm, one grabbed the other, and they manhandled me off the bus. And after I got into the squad car, they handcuffed my hand through the window and took me to booking, and then to not a juvenile facility, but to an adult jail. And I stayed in jail approximately 3 hours, until my pastor, Reverend H.H. Johnson, and my mother bailed me out.
We shall not be moved. Oh, we shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Oh, we shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved, fighting for our freedom. We shall not be just like a tree that's will you come to the old campground? Mother Gloria, will you come to the old campground? Mother Gloria Richardson.
Oh, wow, yes. And they said to me, they've taken the chair away. Well, it proved that they had chairs for the women. I guess for everybody, maybe that was named, the banner across it. So, and asked me, you should raise hell. And I said, I thought, no, I don't have to do that. We're out in the streets. So I said to them, no, I see a lawyer back there, and I have a problem, so I'm going to go back and talk with him. And that's essentially what happened. I think with Lena, and I can't remember exactly how this happened, but she was taking Rosa Parks around to European satellite stations and saying, this is the woman that started Montgomery. This is who did that. So when I saw her doing that, I joined her. And that's why Lena was taking and saying, this is the woman that. So I joined that little epic and went with them 2 or 3 places and then back on that stage. I don't think any of it really so into me until afterwards. And I must say, I probably wouldn't even have gone that far to participate. I only found out in the last 2 or 3 weeks on the internet that they had a separate place for, a separate street for the women to march from. Then when I look at the pictures, it is totally men. And most of them have not been out in those streets. Yes, they called my name, so I went up. The people kept saying, go on up anyhow. So I went up. So I said hello, and I really by that time was so annoyed, I was going to tell them, you all just sit there until they pass that civil rights bill, even if it is a weak one. And I said, hello, and they took, so I guess they were right because, oh yeah, they pulled the mic from my mouth. Then they came after, I don't think I heard Davy Bixby, but they came and got me and Lena Horne and told us, oh, you all may get mobbed or create a mob, so come on with me. We're going to put you in a taxi and send you back to the hotel. So we did that. And we heard just a part of Martin's speech on the radio in the taxi. But in retrospect, I think it was because she was determined to see that Rosa Parks was recognized. And I had worn a denim skirt and hadn't been dressed up properly and was a woman and a series of things.
Mothers of the Combahee, won't you come to the old campground? Mothers of the Combahee, won't you come to the old campground? Mothers of the Combahee River Collective.
Above all else, our politics initially sprang from the shared belief that Black women are inherently valuable.
Yes.
That our liberation is a necessity, not as an adjunct to somebody else's, but because of our need as human persons for autonomy. This may seem so obvious to sound simplistic, but it is apparent that no other ostensibly progressive movement has ever considered our specific oppression as a priority or worked seriously for the ending of that oppression.
Merely naming the pejorative stereotypes attributed to Black women. For example, Mammy, matriarch, sapphire, whore, bulldagger. Let alone cataloging the cruel, often murderous treatment we receive indicates how little value has been placed upon our lives during 4 centuries of bondage in the Western Hemisphere. Although we are feminists and lesbians, we feel solidarity with progressive Black men and do not advocate the fractionalization that white women who are separatists demand.
Our situation as Black people necessitates that we have solidarity around the fact of race, which white women, of course, don't have to have with white men, unless it is their negative solidarity as racial oppressors. we struggle together with black men against racism, while we struggle with black men against sexism.
The major source of difficulty in our political work is that we are not just trying to fight oppression on one front or even two, but instead to address a whole range of oppressions. We do not have racial, sexual, heterosexual, or class privilege to rely upon, nor do we even have the minimal access to resources and power that groups who possess any one of these types of privilege have.
One issue that is of main concern to us and that we have to begin to publicly address is racism in the white women's movement. Eliminating racism in the white women's movement is by definition work for white women to do, but we continue to speak to and determine accountability on this issue.
As black feminists and lesbians, we know that we have a very definite revolutionary task to perform, and we are ready for the lifetime of work and struggle before us.
Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy,
Turn me around, turn me around, turn me around, ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me around, keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy,
Turn me around, turn me around, turn me around, ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy, turn me around, keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy,
Turn me around, turn me around, turn me around, ain't gonna let race hatred, Lordy, turn me around, keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy,
Turn me around, turn me around, turn me around, ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me around, keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
Mother Marcia, won't you come to the old campground? Mother Marcia, won't you come to the old campground?
Mother Marcia P. Johnson.
Stonewall. You goddamn right I threw that brick and I'd do it again, too. I think if transvestites don't stand up for themselves, nobody else is gonna stand up for transvestites. If a transvestite doesn't say, I'm proud and I'm gay and I'm a transvestite, then nobody else is gonna hop up there and say, I'm gay, I'm proud, and I'm a transvestite for them, because they're not transvestites. The life of a transvestite is very hard, especially when she goes out on the street. Transvestites live in drag. A transsexual spends most of her life in drag. I never come out of drag to go anywhere. The way I ended up being at Stonewall that night, I was having a party uptown, and we were all out there, and Miss Sylvia Rivera and them were over in the park having a cocktail. I was uptown, and I didn't get downtown until about 2 o'clock, because when I got downtown, the place was already on fire. And it was a raid already. The riots had already started. And they said the police went in there and set the place on fire. They said the police set it on fire because they originally wanted the Stonewall to close. So they had several raids. And there was this Tiffany, and Oh, this other drag queen worked in the coat check room, and there was all these bartenders. And the night before the Stonewall riot started, before they closed the bar, we were all in there, and we all had to line up against the wall, and they was all searching us. Yeah, they searched everybody that came in there, because the place was supposed to be closed, and they opened anyway. Because every time the police came, what they would do, they would take the money from the coat check room, and they would take the money from the bar. So if they heard the police were coming, they would take all the money and hide it up under the bar in these boxes out of the register. And you know, and sometimes they would hide like under the floor or something. So when the police got in, all they got was the bartender's tips. Well, at first, it was a gay men's bar. And then, they wouldn't let no women in, you know? And then, they let women in. And then they let the drag queens in. I was one of the first drag queens in that place. Because when we first heard about this, and they had these drag queens working there, they never arrested anybody at the Stonewall. All they did was line us up and tell us to get out. Oh no. No, we were too busy throwing over cars and screaming in the middle of the street. Because we were so upset. They closed that place. We were just saying, no more police brutality. And oh, we had enough of police harassment in the village and other places. Oh, there was a lot of little chants we used to do in those days.
Mother Opal, will you come to the old campground? Ooh, Mother Opal, will you come to the old campground? Mother Opal to Betty.
Black Lives Matter is often called a civil rights movement. But to think that our fight is solely about civil rights is to misunderstand the fundamental aspirations of this movement. Today, on International Human Rights Day, we recognize the current struggle is not merely for reforms of policing, any more than the Montgomery bus boycott was simply about a seat on the bus.
Well.
It is about the full recognition of our rights as citizens. And it is a battle for full civil, social, political, legal, economic, and cultural rights as enshrined in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. As Black activists from two different generations, we understand that the Black liberation movement in the U.S., from its inception as an anti-slavery movement through the civil rights era and up to now, has never been only for civil rights.
Right.
The movement is a struggle for human rights and dignity of Black people in the U.S. Dignity. This has been tied to people's struggles of human rights across the globe. Martin Luther King Jr., maybe you've heard of him, once said, "Since we know that the system will not change the rules, well, we will change the system." This vision is critical to our work, as it highlights that this struggle is beyond "stop killing us, we deserve to live. We deserve to thrive." And this requires the full acknowledgement of our breadth of human rights.
Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll
Cheer up, my mother. Live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. I've got to know, yes, I've got to know. Hungry lips ask me wherever I go. Comrades and friends all falling around me. I gotta know, yes, I've got to know. Got to know. Why do your oceans sail on my ocean? Why do your dead bombs pour from the sky? Why do you burn my farm and my house down? I gotta know, yes, I've got to know. Got to know, I've got to know, yes, I gotta know. Hungry lips ask me wherever I go. Comrades and friends all falling around me. I gotta know, yes, I've got to know. Got to know. Why can't my two hands find out the laying down? I can still play. I can't see a floor. Why do your lovers chase me off of my goodness? I gotta know, friend. I gotta know. Got to know. I've got to know, yes, I gotta know. Hungry lips ask me wherever I go. Comrades and friends all falling around me. I gotta know, yes, I've got to know. Got to know. You throw me down now and lock me in prison. Your hospital jail and your crazy house is full. Why do your cops kill? I knew you trained for the world. Tell it to me plainly now. I gotta know. Got to know. I've got to know. Yes, I gotta know. Hungry lips ask me wherever I go. Comrades and friends all falling around me. I gotta know, yes, I gotta know. Got to know. I've got to know, yes, I gotta know. Got to know. I've got to know, yes, I gotta know. Got to know. Mother Angela, will you come to the old campground? Ooh, Mother Angela, will you come to the old campground? Mother Angela Davis.
The freedom struggles of Black people that have been shaped this very nature of this country's history cannot be deleted with a sweep of the hand. We cannot be made to forget that Black lives do matter.
Right.
This is a country anchored in slavery and colonialism, which means for better or for worse. The very history of the United States is a history of immigration and enslavement. Spreading xenophobia, hurling accusations of murder and rape, and building walls will not erase history.
That's right.
No human being is illegal. The struggle to save the planet, to stop climate change, to guarantee the accessibility of water from Standing Rock, Sioux to Flint, Michigan, to the West Bank and Gaza. The struggle to save our flora and fauna to save the air. This is ground zero of the struggle for social justice.
Yes.
This is a women's march. And this women's march represents the promise of feminism as against the pernicious powers of state violence. The inclusive, intersectional feminism that calls upon all of us to join the resistance to racism, to Islamophobia, to anti-Semitism, to misogyny, to capitalist exploitation. Over the next months and years, we will be called upon to intensify our demands for social justice, to become more militant in our defense of vulnerable populations. Those who still defend the supremacy of the white, male, hetero patriarchy had better watch out. The next 1,459 days of the Trump administration will be 1,459 days of resistance. Resistance on the ground, resistance in the classroom, resistance on the job, resistance in our art and our music.
By and by, Lord, when the morning comes, that's when all the saints of God are gathering home. We will tell the story of how we've overcome, and we'll understand it better by and by. We're singing by and by, oh, when the morning comes, that's when all the saints of God are gathering home. We will tell the story of how we've overcome, and we'll understand it better by and by. We are tossed and driven on the restless sea of time. Starboard skies and highways tempest, ocean see the bright sunshine. In that land of perfect day, when the mist has rolled away, we will understand it better by and by. We're singing by and by, oh, when the morning comes, that's when all the saints of God are gathering home. We will tell the story of how we overcome, and we'll understand it better by and by. We are often destitute of the things that life demands, want of shelter and of food, thirsty hills and barren lands, but we're trusting in the Lord, and according to His word, we will understand it better by and by. I'm singing by and by, oh, when the morning comes, oh, that's when all the saints of God are gathering home, and we will tell the story of how we overcome, and we'll understand it better by and by.
Mother Shirley, will you come to the old campground? Mother Shirley, will you come to the old campground?
Mother Shirley Chisholm.
Mr. Speaker, when a young woman graduates from college and starts looking for a job, she is likely to have a frustrating and even demeaning experience ahead of her. If she walks into an office for an interview, the first question she will be asked is, do you type? There is a calculated system of prejudice that lies unspoken behind that question.
Well,
Why is it acceptable for women to be secretaries, librarians, and teachers, but totally unacceptable for them to be managers, administrators, doctors, lawyers, and members of Congress. The unspoken assumption is that women are different. They do not have executive ability, orderly minds, stability, leadership skills, and they are too emotional. It has been observed before that society, for a long time, discriminated against another minority, the blacks, for the same basis, that they were different and inferior. The happy little homemaker and the contented darky on old darky on the plantation were both produced by prejudice. As a black person, I am no stranger to race prejudice. But the truth is that in the political world, I have far oftener been discriminated against because I am a woman than because I am black. Prejudice against blacks is becoming unacceptable. It will take years to eliminate it, but it is due. Because slowly, white America is beginning to admit that it exists. Prejudice against women is still acceptable. There is very little understanding yet of the immorality involved in double pay scales and the classification of the better jobs as for men only. More than half the population of the United States is female, but women occupy only 2% of the managerial positions. They have not even reached the level of tokenism yet.
No, that's right.
Mother Sojourner, will you come to the old campground? Mother Sojourner, will you come to the old campground?
Mother Sojourner, truth. Well, children, where there is so much racket, something must be out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negro in the South and the women at the North all talking about rights, the white man will be in a fix pretty soon. And what's this all here they talking about? That man over there says that women ought to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and given the best place everywhere. No one ever helps me in the carriages. Over mud puddles, or gives me the best any place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as any man, when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children. Seen most of them sold into slavery. And when I cried with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? And then they talk about this thing in their head. What's it they call it? Intellect. That's it, honey. What's that got to do with Negroes' rights or women's rights? If my little cup won't hold but a pint and yours a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my half measure full? And that man in black, that little man in black over there says, women can't have as much rights as women, as men, because Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. I think that if the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, then these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And they is asking to do it. And the men ought to let them. Obliged to you for listening to me. Now, old Sojourner ain't got nothing more to say.
Just looking for a place
like Luke, wait for Judgment Day. Hey, look, my friend, what about Annalie? He said, do me a favor, stay and keep Annalie some company. Take a load off Annie, take a load for free. Take a load off Annie, and take a load right on me.
Can't you get him on now? Won't you take me down the line? My bag is sinking low, and I do believe it's time to get back to Miss Fanny. Oh, you know she's the only one who's been making it with regards for everyone. Take a load off Fanny, hey.
Take a load for free. Take a load off Annie, and right on me.
Mother Bree, will you come to the old campground? Mother Bree, will you come to the old campground? Mother Bree Newsom.
I come from the South. Like a lot of people, especially a lot of Afro-Americans, my ancestors came through Charleston, the slave market. And so the Confederate flag is a symbol of, folks trying to kind of hold us down into a place of bondage that we have been before. And our struggle the past 150 years of trying to come out of that place. And so it was, I'm sure like a lot of people, I was sitting at home looking at the flag flying. I mean, I wish I could just take that down, but I had no idea if it was possible and how possible it would be. I had even contemplated just on my own, just attempting to climb it, knowing full well I couldn't get up there. Just let them arrest me. Just to make the statement. I mean, that's how strongly I felt about it. And so then when I ended up connecting with other activists there in North Carolina, found out that, there were people who actually knew how to plan for how we could possibly scale the pole. And there were many roles to fill in the plan, and one, of course, including needing someone to actually climb up. And of course, that was a high risk of arrest, we knew. So after some prayer and really thinking about it, I decided to volunteer. I mean, the retaliation piece was much scarier to me than arrest. I was even thinking about the possibility of being up on the flagpole, and you never know who might walk by, quite frankly. You could get shot. You just really don't know, especially when you're up there and harnessed to the pole. I mean, you're in a highly vulnerable position. And so I really did have to, pray on it quite a bit. But part of why it was so important to me to do that was because, to me, that flag just represents just fear,
Yes.
It's racial intimidation. It's fear. These are the same things they would fly when people were marching for integration. They would be flying that flag because it's a sign of intimidation, which is undergirded by violence, has been undergirded by violence ever since the failure of Reconstruction. And so, that's part of what Tamika was speaking to have a black woman climb up there. Whether it was me or someone else, to climb up there and take that down, it was a strong sign of, we refuse to be ruled by just this fear.
have to come home again. We all, every one of us, have to come home again. Some of us were born on the bottom. We lived on the bottom. We grew up from the bottom. And then we declared that we never return to the bottom. We all, every one of us, has to come home again. We all, every one of us.
Mother Harriet, won't you come to the old campground? Mother Harriet, won't you come to the old campground?
Mother Harriet Tubman.
Slavery is the next thing to hell. I grew up like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty, having no experience of it. Then I was not happy or contented. When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came down like gold through the trees and over the fields. It was just such a glory over everything.
Yes.
And I felt like I was in heaven.
Yes.
I had crossed the line. I was free. But there was no one to welcome me in that land of freedom. I was a stranger in a strange land. And my home, after all, was back home in Maryland. Because my father, my mother, my brothers, and my sisters, and all my friends were there. But I was free. And they should be free.
Yes. Yes.
I have heard their groans and their sighs, and I have seen their tears. And I would give every drop of blood in my veins to free them. I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years.
Amen.
And I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track.
Amen.
And I never lost a passenger.
All right now.
Look at here. There are two things I have a right to in this world. And that is liberty or death. Bring me a little water, Sylvie. Bring me a little water now. Bring me a little water, Sylvie. Every little once in a while. Don't you see me coming? Don't you see me now? Don't you see me coming? Every
so